1, 2, 3, bread.
Guys, can someone please explain me why the hell people are doing their best of the year list in December? The year isn't over yet. There's still more stuff to come. Stop it! Wait, what was this video about anyway? Oh, that's right! The new Paul McCartney album, McCartney III! Sir James Paul McCartney, or how I like to call him, Paul McCartney. For those of you that don't know who Paul McCartney is, he's, well, a Bulgarian flutist from the 17th century. You probably don't know him, he's really obscure. Like really obscure. If you know him, good job. If you don't know him, I don't blame you because he's not famous at all. A few days ago, Paul Mariah Carey released McCartney III, the third installment of his self-titled trilogy. The first album of said trilogy is regarded as a classic, and rightfully so, since this album is noise. Maybe I'm Amazed, Junk, Mama Miss America, Every Night, those are awesome A+ McCartney tracks. And it even gets more impressive, considering he worked on the album alone. That's right, production, composition, lyrics, everything was handled by himself and himself only. Gotta give kudos to that. I'm pretty sure that if I did that, I'd leave the studio giving Corey Feldman a run to his money. The second album came out 10 years later. And before anything, I just wanted to say that I adore this album cover. Look at his face. It looks like he's watching somebody take a dump in the middle of the sidewalk. Now about the album. This album again was mostly handled by McCartney himself. But this time around he got the help of Eddie Klein as a technical supervisor. And it's probably just as good as the first one, right? God damn it, this album is terrible. I know this album has somewhat of a cult following, but I honestly can't get behind it. It's just a synthesized mess. That is just one of the most confusing things I've ever heard in my life. Not joking, not a single track of this record pleases me. I think the least offensive track of this album is Waterfalls. I still don't like it, but it's much better than the rest of this tainted record. Now, after such a high and such a low, the third installment of the series is finally here, 40 years after the second one. And according to my calculations, McCartney IV will come out 160 years from now. When it comes out, you can surely expect me to review it in hologram form. Now back to Paul McCartney III. Is it any good? Well, it's better than the second, that's for sure, but better than the first one? Debatable. But I don't think so. Yet this doesn't mean that this album is a middle-of-the-world one, because after all, we are comparing it with one hell of a heavyweight in Paul McDonald's discography. I think the main thing to appreciate here is that this album is far from an album that Paul relies in just one trick to make it, even if none of the songs of the record show something new to the sound that is normally associated with him. The balance between those styles that he uses here, combined with the convincing compositions, make it not a fantastic album, but one that's worthy of dropping the needle once in a while. Since the sound of this album is not in usual McCartney standards, I feel like the most accurate way to talk about it is to dive into the track by track. So let's do it! The opening track of this album is an instrumental one, and it's really simple. But is in its simplicity that it shines. So let's bang the positive highlighting here. Boom! Okay, that was really good way to open this album. The song mostly relies on the main riff, that may or may not be inspired by Carlos Santana, since because of how high it is, there's a soft Latin flair to it. Aside from that, we have an electric guitar that has a very muffled sound, but it's pretty enjoyable. It just doesn't have much spotlight, and Paul occasionally appears asking a few questions, that if they are redirected to the listener, it might get bizarre. Since those questions are, do you miss me? You released a decent enough album 2 years ago, and I follow you on social media. I miss George though. Do you feel me? Music reaches the feelings, so fair enough question. And do you touch me? Be thankful I'm over 18.
Touch me.
These lines don't add much to the song, but they also don't take anything away from it. Then after that, the main riff happens again, with more tempo, then the electric guitar and the questions again, until the main riff again, with even more tempo. I could say repeat cycle, but the song ends here, so not this time. In an overall, it isn't a song that has a lot going on in it. But in what it has, it's made in a great way. And it also does a great job opening the album. Wanna hear a fun fact? Paul McCartney is 78 years old. At that age I feel like people might think his creative juice might have dried off. But you just need to show them this track to prove them wrong. Yeah, I really like this song. It's one of the most upbeat tracks on the record. The lyrics aren't very complex. It's mostly two short verses and the chorus being repeated over and over. And they seem to be about offering emotional support to someone in times of need. But what really seals the deal in the song is the composition. It's such a captivating listen. It's very upbeat, entertaining, and energetic. It's not something that's mind-blowing, especially since the song style for McCartney isn't anything new. But here it's made in a fantastic way. Positive highlight? Yes. But also add the fact that to me, it's the best track of this record. In a contrast to the previous more energetic tracks, Pretty Boys is a much slower track that is mostly carried by the acoustic guitar and Paul's lyrics. So this only means one thing: we must emphasize the lyrics. I really like the lyrics of the song. They're simple, easy to understand even with the symbolism, and it gets the point across in just a few words. He's clearly talking about how the media treats superstars more as objects than anything else. And by the Pretty Boys on the title, he's probably referring to him and the other folks that you might be familiar with: Guy Fieri, Hulk Hogan, and John Mayer. Woo! No, but for real, the song is clearly about the Beatlemania days. And if you stop to think about it, the Beatles were phenomenal unlike any other band. To this day, they're not only the best-selling musical act of all time, but they also have the largest amount of #1 songs in history. And it happened in a span of only 7 years. Their lives must be so stressing to this day, so imagine how it was during that time. Even though the song isn't very relatable to us, it makes us understand the artist more, which is a respectable thing. So this can only mean that... come on, I'm really going to make this the third positive highlight in a row? Yes, I am. Alright, 3 positive highlights in a row. Can we get a 4th one? The answer is... no. Yeah, the song is not one of the best of the record, but it's also not one of the worst. It's a piano and voice song, which is usually something I like, but here it didn't really work. But consider that they are chaotic in a good way. And same thing for the lyrics, they are good but far from being one of his greatest. So yeah, the best way to define the song is good, but I don't really care about it. Wow, this album's really full of patterns. First we had 3 songs that are positive highlights, then we had 2 songs that are good, but I don't really like them. I gotta give credit for this track, because the lyrics, despite being dark, are really well done. As expected, after all it's Paul McCartney we're talking about. And the instrumental part's kinda rockabilly-ish, that gives this song an extra charm, so I respect the song more than anything. But it's not really one song that I see myself returning every often, unless I decide to listen to the album again. This song has 8 minutes, and it's the longest track of the record. And it's also a mixed bag to me. I don't know. It's weird how the song goes from moments that I like, to moments that I dislike, to moments that I like again, and so on. The main example of that is in the 2 most notable hooks of the song. The one that has the title of the song and the one that doesn't. Respectively, I dislike and like them. It's definitely one of the artsier songs on the record, but it's not really amusing too. And for a song that goes for 8 minutes, it's not really something that justifies its length. If this was the White Album, Slidin would be its Helter Skelter. While it's not even close as being heavy as it, Slidin is for sure the loudest track of the record, and it works immaculately. I legit have so much fun listening to this song. It's just so charged and attention-grabbing guitars, and Paul's softly reverbed vocals that add an extra touch to the song. And the guitar solo in the end is also one of the most satisfying moments of the entire record. How many things do I have to mention before you guys realize that this is a positive highlights? Not many, probably. I gotta say, this song kinda scared me when I heard it for the first time, because I misunderstood the title of the song with something a bit peculiar. But after the initial shock, I realized it's a pretty okay song. It's again acoustic guitar and lyrics focused. But it feels strange because the lyrics are pretty average and somewhat abstract. It's for sure a pretty song, despite not being very memorable, so I guess it's a song worthy of being remembered every now and then. Happy sounding songs with depressive lyrics. I love them so much. The sound of the song is very bright and uplifting, but you just need a quick glance to the chorus of the song to realize things aren't a bed of roses here. The song's message is brightly the classic Carpe Diem. Enjoy life because if Thanos snaps, you're gone. And the instrumentals of the song are that happy because it's trying to make it as a positive way to see the present. But if you look closely, this is anxiety inducing. I freak out just to think that if I die tomorrow, I'll never get a chance to lose my fear of heights, to eat Mongolian food, to become John Mayer for a day. Anyway, this is the positive highlights. The song begins with cool synthesizers and horns that remind me of disco. And while I enjoy the song, I don't really see anything that stands out in it, besides those 2 things that I've mentioned. So because of that, I honestly have no idea what else to say about it. The lyrics are definitely lyrics, and this line kinda looks like he's talking about cannibalism. Who cares? I think I don't know what else to say about it. Oh my god! We're making it to the end of this album without a negative highlight? That's incredible! This must mean that this album is a...
No. You're a dick!
I've mentioned this before. I care a lot about the way an album ends. I don't want it to end in an unsatisfying note that makes the whole experience feel loose. It's like a movie being ruined by a bad ending. No one wants that. The song starts with a reprise of the opening track of the record. And sadly, it's the only interesting moment of it. Because after it, we have a song that is basically a diluted version of Pretty Boys. I don't really like this song, and it does a terrible job at closing this record. Only if this album ended in the 10th track. Look, despite the disappointing ending, I got to say that I really like this album. I haven't heard all the albums from McCartney's late discography, but I definitely got more enjoyment from this album than I got from Egypt Station. The song right here, while it's not flawless, it's still pretty solid, and the album doesn't feel repetitive at any point. Sure, it has some dull moments, but nothing that really breaks the album, so I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised. McCartney III is 79% superb.